Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back in time to ancient Greece, a place where the lines between waking life and the slumbering world were wonderfully blurry, especially when it came to your health. Imagine yourself not tucked into your cozy bed with a podcast playing, but instead lying on a hard stone slab in a dimly lit temple, the air thick with the scent of incense and something vaguely earthy. You're not just trying to catch some G. You're actively trying to dream your way to a diagnosis, maybe even a cure. You've probably gone to bed hoping for a good night's sleep, but you probably won't survive a night in one of these ancient healing temples, hoping for a prophetic snore. It's a fascinating and frankly, a bit unsettling peek into ancient medicine. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're up for it, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always fun to see where everyone is drifting off. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself, perhaps, at a sprawling complex dedicated to Asclepius, a Greek god of medicine. These weren't just hospitals in the modern sense. They were sacred spaces, known as Asclepieia, where the act of healing was deeply intertwined with ritual and, crucially, with sleep. You see, the Greeks believed that Asclepius, or his divine snakes, might visit you in your dreams, offering insights into your ailments, or even performing miraculous cures. You journeyed to one of these sanctuaries, often after weeks of suffering from some mysterious malady, ready to commit to a process that was more pilgrimage than medical appointment. It wasn't about a quick prescription. It was about immersing yourself in an atmosphere designed to lull you into a receptive state. You'd undergo a series of purifications, ritual baths, fasting, maybe even a little light chanting, all to prepare your mind and body for the divine encounter. It's a bit like a spa day, but with higher stakes and less cucumber water. The main event, a centerpiece of this ancient medical tourism, was known as incubation, or enkoimesis. After your preparatory rituals, you would lie down in a special dormitory, called an abaton, often on the skin of a sacrificed animal, believing that this direct contact with the sacred would facilitate the dream. The air would be filled with hushed whispers, the rustling of leaves from nearby sacred groves, and the faint, comforting sounds of nature. You might hear the distant bleating of sheep or the gentle chirping of crickets, all contributing to a peaceful, somnolent ambience. You weren't just trying to fall asleep. You were actively inviting a dream, hoping for a visit from the god himself. The expectation was that Asclepius, or his animal manifestations, would appear to you, perhaps touching the afflicted part of your body, or whispering a cure. Imagine the pressure. It's one thing to want a good night's sleep. It's another entirely to need a divine intervention by morning. One of the more quirky aspects of these healing dreams was the role of the sacred snakes. These non-venomous serpents, believed to embody the god's presence, would often roam freely within the abaton. So, as you drift off, there's a distinct possibility you might feel a slithery friend brush past your leg. Now, for most of us, a snake in the bedroom isn't exactly a recipe for relaxation, but for the hopeful patient, it was a sign of divine proximity. Historians still argue whether these snakes were purely symbolic, or if their presence actually had a psychological effect, perhaps enhancing the suggestibility of the dream state. Did the anticipation of a snake encounter prime the mind for more vivid, memorable dreams? It's certainly a fascinating thought, isn't it? The belief was so strong that many cures were attributed directly to these serpentine visitations, which, by modern standards, might sound a bit reptilian. But for the ancient Greeks, it was simply part of the divine healing process. You might wake up the next morning feeling refreshed, or perhaps a little bewildered, but you would immediately consult with a temple priest or an interpreter of dreams. These individuals were skilled in deciphering the cryptic messages of the dream world. It wasn't enough to simply have a dream. You needed to understand what Asclepius was trying to tell you. Sometimes the message was clear: eat less bread, or bathe in the river. Other times it was more allegorical, requiring careful thought and interpretation. Perhaps you dreamt of a broken vase, symbolizing a fragile constitution, or a blossoming flower, indicating renewed health. The act of dream interpretation was almost as important as the dream itself, transforming fragmented nocturnal visions into actionable medical advice. It highlights a deeply human desire to find meaning in the inexplicable, to seek answers beyond the tangible, especially when faced with illness. And who wouldn't want a dream to tell them how to feel better, especially if it involved a divine snake whisperer? It certainly beats a cold stethoscope. As you slowly awaken from your temple slumber, you might find yourself recounting your nocturnal visions to a dream interpreter, or oneirokrites. These weren't just folks with a knack for riddles. They were often highly respected figures, sometimes priests themselves, who possessed a deep understanding of common dream motifs and their cultural significance. You described the fluttering bird you saw, the strange fruit you tasted, or the peculiar conversation you overheard, and they would meticulously piece together the narrative, searching for patterns and divine messages. It's a bit like ancient therapy, where your therapist is also a part-time psychic, and the cure involves fewer expensive sessions and more spiritual insights. The belief was that dreams, even the most mundane, were never truly random. They were whispers from the gods, or perhaps reflections of the body's internal state. Consider the common dream of falling, something many of us still experience. To an ancient Greek dream interpreter, this might not signify anxiety about work deadlines, but perhaps a literal weakening of the body, a sign that your humors were out of balance and your internal equilibrium was quite literally dropping. Or imagine dreaming of a withered tree. This wasn't just a bad sign for your garden. It could be interpreted as a symbol of declining health, a body losing its vitality. On the other hand, a dream of clear, flowing water might indicate purification and healing, a promising sign of recovery. You'd hang on their every word, hoping for an optimistic reading, much like waiting for your lab results today, but with significantly more symbolism and less technical jargon. One of the more quirky tidbits about dream interpretation involved specific body parts. If you dreamt of a wound on your left side, for instance, it might have a different medical meaning than a wound on your right. Or if you saw a particular animal, say a deer, in your dream, it might point to a specific type of illness or a weakness related to speed or agility. It wasn't always straightforward. Sometimes, the dream was so vivid and clear, the god Asclepius literally speaking to you, that interpretation was hardly necessary. Other times, it was a cryptic jumble of images, leaving you and the interpreter scratching your heads, wondering if the god was having an off day or if you just needed more sleep. Historians still argue whether the interpretations were truly standardized across all Asclepieia, or if they varied widely depending on the individual interpreter's personal beliefs and local traditions. It's easy to imagine a competitive market for dream interpretation, with some oneirokrites boasting higher success rates than others, perhaps even publishing ancient dream dictionaries. The act of recounting your dream was also crucial. You were encouraged to remember every detail, no matter how insignificant it seemed. This oral tradition of dream narration was a vital part of the diagnostic process. You weren't just telling a story. You were presenting evidence, a divine message that needed careful decoding. And for the ancient Greeks, this wasn't just about physical ailments. Dreams could also offer insights into mental distress, a troubled spirit, or even warnings about future events. It was a holistic approach to well-being, where the mind, body, and spirit were seen as interconnected, and the dream world served as a powerful diagnostic tool for all three. Imagine if your doctor today asked you about your dreams before prescribing anything. It certainly would make for a more interesting appointment, even if slightly more confusing. And perhaps, just perhaps, you'd be more inclined to remember your dreams if your health depended on it. So, you've shared your dreams. The interpreter has pondered, perhaps stroked his chin thoughtfully, and now you await the diagnosis. The anticipation would be palpable. Would it be a simple herbal remedy? A suggestion for a change in diet? Or something more profound, a deep-seated spiritual cleansing? The power of suggestion in these settings must have been immense. If you believed that God had spoken to you, the conviction alone could be a powerful catalyst for healing, a testament to the mind's incredible influence over the body. It's a gentle reminder that sometimes believing is indeed seeing, especially when you're half asleep in a sacred dormitory with a friendly serpent slithering by. You might even find yourself wishing your own dreams were so helpfully prescriptive, offering direct advice on that nagging ache or that persistent sniffle. No more confusing internet searches, just divine revelations. While many sought divine intervention in their dreams at Asclepieia, a parallel, more philosophical tradition was also at play in ancient Greece. Thinkers like Aristotle, rather than relying solely on gods, attempted to rationalize dreams, to understand them through observation and logic. You see, even as you might have been hoping for Asclepius to pop in your slumber, other, more scientifically inclined minds were pondering the mundane, yet still mysterious, origins of your nocturnal wanderings. They were trying to figure out why you dreamt of flying, or suddenly finding yourself naked in public, without attributing it all to a deity with a staff and a snake. It was a fascinating intellectual tug-of-war between the mystical and the methodical, a bit like watching a debate between a deeply spiritual guru and a very dry statistician. Aristotle, for instance, in his treatise on dreams, wasn't dismissing dreams entirely. Rather, he was suggesting that they were often echoes of waking life. He proposed that our senses, even when we're asleep, continue to receive subtle impressions, almost like faint whispers from the external world, which then get magnified and distorted in our minds. Imagine you've had a heavy meal before bed. Aristotle might suggest that the dream you have of being chased by a giant, angry sausage, is simply your digestive system making itself known in a rather dramatic fashion. Or perhaps you feel a slight chill while you sleep, and your dream then conjures images of snowy landscapes or shivering villagers. It was about finding natural, physiological explanations for these nightly narratives, rather than assuming every vision was a coded message from Mount Olympus. He wasn't saying dreams couldn't be meaningful, just that perhaps the meaning wasn't always divine. This wasn't to say Aristotle was entirely dismissive of the idea of prophetic dreams, but he certainly approached them with a healthy dose of skepticism. He argued that if dreams did foretell the future, it was more likely due to coincidence or the sleeper's own existing knowledge and anxieties rather than direct divine communication. For example, if you were a sailor constantly worried about storms, dreaming of a shipwreck might be a manifestation of your fears, not a direct prediction. It's a bit like seeing clouds gathering and predicting rain. It's based on observation, not necessarily celestial memo. This was a radical departure from the prevailing belief that dreams were primarily supernatural portents. He was, in essence, trying to bring dreams down to earth, to analyze them with the same logical rigor he applied to the waking world. One mainstream historical fact about Aristotle's approach is his emphasis on the body's influence on dreams. He believed that physical sensations, even those below the threshold of waking awareness, could shape our dream experiences. A slight ringing in your ears, for instance, might manifest as a grand trumpet fanfare in your dream, or a minor ache in your leg could transform into a dream about being injured in battle. This focus on internal physical states as a source of dream content was quite advanced for its time, laying some of the groundwork for later psychological theories. It's a curious thought, isn't it, that your sleeping brain might be cleverly weaving your bodily sensations into a fantastic narrative without you even realizing it? You might, for instance, think you're dreaming of climbing a treacherous mountain, when really, you just need to adjust your pillow. a quirky or fringe tidbit from this era. Some philosophers also explored the idea that dreams could be a way for the soul to travel outside the body, briefly experiencing other realities, or even conversing with disembodied spirits. While Aristotle focused on the physiological, others still clung to more ethereal explanations. It paints a fascinating picture of a society grappling with the mysteries of the mind, pulling it in both scientific and spiritual directions simultaneously. Historians still argue whether Aristotle's more rational approach significantly influenced broader medical practices at the time, or if the popular appeal of divine dream incubation largely overshadowed his empirical investigations. It's a classic chicken and egg situation. Did the common person seek the supernatural because it was available, or did the supernatural thrive because it offered comfort and hope where empirical science had yet to tread? Either way, you, the ancient sleeper, had options for understanding your dreams, from a divine whisper in your ear to a philosophical treatise on your nightstand. Beyond the healing temples and the philosophical debates, ancient Greeks also sought guidance from their dreams through dream oracles. These weren't always grand temple complexes. Sometimes they were small, unassuming shrines or even individuals known for their interpretive abilities. You might have found yourself, after a particularly troubling or vivid dream, seeking out such an oracle, much like you might consult a fortune teller or a life coach today, but with significantly more incense and fewer digital appointments. The goal wasn't necessarily a medical diagnosis, but often guidance for life's dilemmas, from navigating a difficult personal relationship to making crucial business decisions. It was about finding clarity in the hazy aftermath of sleep, hoping your subconscious had received a divine memo. The methods employed by these dream oracles varied. Some might have used specific rituals to induce a dream, similar to the temple incubations, but perhaps on a smaller, more personalized scale. You might be asked to sleep on a consecrated animal's skin or in a specific quiet chamber designed to facilitate visionary sleep. Others relied on interpreting dreams you'd already had, using ancient dream dictionaries or their own intuitive understanding of symbolism. Imagine sitting across from an elderly, wise figure, their eyes perhaps a little too knowing, as you describe a dream filled with peculiar imagery: a talking owl, a river flowing uphill, a golden apple. They would listen intently, perhaps making notes on a wax tablet, before offering their profound insights. It's a scene straight out of a quiet, contemplative movie where wisdom is dispensed slowly and thoughtfully. One mainstream historical fact about these dream oracles is their widespread popularity. People from all walks of life, from farmers to philosophers, sought their advice. This wasn't just a niche practice. It was deeply embedded in the cultural fabric, reflecting a society that genuinely believed in the predictive and guiding power of dreams. It highlights a universal human need to understand the unknown, to find meaning in the seemingly random, and to seek reassurance when facing life's uncertainties. Think about it. If you had a dream that felt incredibly real, incredibly potent, wouldn't you want to know what it meant? Especially if you believed a god or a spirit was trying to tell you something. A quirky or fringe tidbit about dream oracles involved the use of incense and fumes to enhance or clarify dreams. Certain herbs, when burned, were believed to create an atmosphere conducive to prophetic visions. While this might sound a bit like ancient aromatherapy with a mystical twist, the idea was that altering your sensory environment could open pathways to deeper understanding. You might find yourself inhaling sweet, heavy smoke, hoping it would not only soothe you to sleep, but also invite more vivid and insightful dreams. Historians still debate the extent to which these practices were genuinely believed to induce divine communication versus simply acting as a form of ancient cognitive behavioral therapy, subtly influencing the dreamer's expectations and interpretations. Was it truly a conduit to the divine, or was it a clever psychological trick designed to calm the mind and encourage introspection? The line, as often in ancient practices, was beautifully blurred. The impact of these dream oracles extended beyond individual consultations. Their interpretations could influence political decisions, military strategies, and even major public works projects. If a prominent leader dreamt of a specific omen, the oracle's interpretation could sway the course of history. It underscores the profound influence that dreams and their interpreters held in ancient Greek society. It makes you wonder what kind of historical butterfly effects were set in motion by a single, peculiar dream and an oracle's quiet pronouncement. You might, for instance, be enjoying a particularly tasty Greek salad today because, centuries ago, someone had a dream about plump olives and a savvy dream oracle interpreted it as a sign of agricultural prosperity. It's a delightful thought, isn't it? Of course, not all dream experiences in ancient Greece were left to chance or the whims of a deity. There were also deliberate attempts to induce visions and influence the content of dreams, often through the use of herbal potions and specific rituals. Imagine wanting a particular kind of dream, perhaps one that offered clarity on a personal struggle, and then consuming a concoction of herbs designed to nudge your subconscious in the right direction. It's a bit like trying to pick a specific movie to watch before you fall asleep, except your ancient Greek Netflix is a local herbalist, and the remote control is a mug of something questionable. These weren't just random acts. They were often tied to specific traditions and specialized knowledge passed down through generations. Certain plants were believed to possess properties that could enhance dream recall, deepen the dreaming state, or even evoke particular kinds of imagery. For instance, the poppy, with its well-known sedative properties, was likely used to induce a deeper, more profound sleep, increasing the chances of vivid dreams. While we now understand its active compounds, for the ancient Greeks, it was a mysterious plant gifted with the power to unlock the hidden realms of the mind. You might find yourself slowly sipping a warm, earthy brew, its subtle bitterness lingering on your tongue as you await the onset of its dream-inducing effects. One mainstream historical fact is the use of mandragora in ancient Greek medicine and ritual, often associated with its hypnotic and hallucinogenic properties. This peculiar plant, with its vaguely human-shaped root, was believed to have powerful magical and medicinal qualities, including the ability to induce deep sleep and vivid dreams. It's a plant steeped in folklore and mystery, the kind you'd expect to find in a witch's garden rather than a typical ancient pharmacy. The act of preparing these potions was often a ritual in itself, involving specific moon phases, incantations, or offerings to certain deities. It wasn't just about grinding herbs. It was about infusing the concoction with intention and mystical energy. A quirky or fringe tidbit from this period involves the idea of dream feeding, where certain foods or drinks were consumed with the specific intention of influencing dream content. It wasn't just about don't eat cheese before bed, or you'll have nightmares. It was about eat this special honey cake before bed to dream of abundance. Imagine meticulously planning your dinner based purely on your desired dreamscape, perhaps consuming particular kinds of fish to dream of the sea, or sweet fruits to dream of prosperity. This reflects a deeper belief in the interconnectedness of diet, body, and the subconscious mind. Historians still argue whether the effects of these herbal potions and dietary practices were primarily psychological, stemming from the power of suggestion and belief, or if they had genuine pharmacological impacts that altered brain chemistry. Were the visions purely a product of expectation, or was there a subtle chemical dance at play? It's a compelling question, one that continues to intrigue even modern sleep scientists. You might also find that these dream-inducing rituals were accompanied by specific atmospheric preparations. Dim lighting, rhythmic chanting, or the gentle strumming of a lyre could have been employed to create a truly immersive environment. The goal was to remove you from the distractions of the waking world and gently guide you into a state of heightened receptivity. It was an elaborate dance between chemistry, psychology, and spiritual belief, all aimed at unlocking the hidden messages within your slumbering mind. And as you slowly drift off under the influence of these ancient preparations, you might wonder what strange, comforting, or perhaps even prophetic visions await you. Perhaps you dream of a perfect solution to a nagging problem, or simply a night of unusually vivid and strangely pleasant, if peculiar, experiences. Before you could even think about drifting off to dream for a diagnosis or divine guidance, the ancient Greeks believed that meticulous ritual preparations were absolutely essential. It wasn't a matter of simply flopping into bed after a long day. You had to earn your sacred sleep. Imagine for a moment that your entire evening routine, from dinner to lights out, was a carefully choreographed performance designed to cleanse your body, quiet your mind, and open a channel to the divine realm. It's a bit more involved than brushing your teeth and scrolling through social media, isn't it? The process often began with purification rites. You would undertake ritual baths, perhaps in cool, flowing water from a sacred spring, believing that physical cleanliness mirrored spiritual readiness. This wasn't just about getting rid of the day's grime. It was about washing away impurities, both tangible and intangible, that might hinder your connection to the dream world. You might also be asked to abstain from certain foods, particularly those considered heavy or impure, for a period leading up to your dream incubation. Fasting, or at least a very light diet, was common, as it was believed to sharpen the senses and make the mind more receptive to subtle messages. Think of it as a divine detox, preparing your inner landscape for important nocturnal visitors. One mainstream historical fact about these preparations is the emphasis on silence and isolation. Patients entering the abaton for dream incubation were often required to remain silent and avoid unnecessary interaction. This wasn't just about courtesy. It was believed that external noise and human chatter could disrupt the delicate psychic state necessary for prophetic dreaming. Imagine a dormitory full of people all trying to achieve a highly specific altered state of consciousness, and everyone is strictly observing a vow of silence. The atmosphere itself would contribute to a profound sense of calm and introspection, almost a self-imposed sensory deprivation to heighten the internal experience. It's a remarkable testament to their understanding of how environment influences mental states, even if their ultimate goals were spiritual. A quirky or fringe tidbit from these preparations involved the offering of small personal sacrifices. Before you lay down to sleep, you might offer a lock of your hair, a small coin, or a piece of fruit to Asclepius, or another relevant deity. These weren't necessarily large, dramatic sacrifices, but rather personal tokens, symbols of your earnest desire for healing and guidance. It was a physical manifestation of your plea, a tangible expression of your faith in the power of the dream. Historians still argue whether these rituals were purely symbolic acts of devotion, or if they served a psychological purpose, focusing the supplicant's intention and belief, thereby increasing the likelihood of a powerful dream experience. Did the act of offering truly appease the gods, or did it simply convince the dreamer that they deserved a divine visitation, thus making them more receptive to one? The interplay between belief and outcome is a fascinating historical puzzle. The entire atmosphere surrounding these preparations was carefully curated for tranquility. Gentle music, perhaps the soft sound of a flute or lyre, might have been played to soothe the nerves. The air would be filled with the fragrant smoke of burning herbs, creating a calming, almost hypnotic ambience. You might lie on a comfortable mat, or as mentioned before, even a sacred animal's skin, allowing the coolness of the stone floor beneath to subtly ground you as you drifted into slumber. The idea was to create a space utterly removed from the everyday, a liminal zone where the conscious mind could surrender to the deeper currents of the subconscious. It was a masterclass in ancient environmental design for relaxation, long before anyone thought of sleep hygiene. And as you close your eyes, surrounded by these ancient preparations, you might find yourself surprisingly at peace, ready to surrender to whatever ancient wisdom the night might bring. Perhaps you'll even wake up feeling incredibly refreshed, or at least less stressed about your daily ancient Greek woes. It might seem like these ancient Greek dream practices, with their sacred snakes and herbal concoctions, are worlds away from our modern understanding of sleep and medicine. Yet, if you peer closely, you'll discover that modern echoes of these ancient ideas resonate even in today's sleep science and psychology. We may no longer consult dream oracles for medical diagnosis, but the underlying questions about what our dreams mean and how they influence our well-being persist. It's a bit like finding a tiny, perfectly preserved Greek amphora in the latest neuroscience lab. The container has changed, but the essence of inquiry remains. Consider, for instance, the profound role of the mind-body connection in healing. The ancient Greeks intuitively understood that stress, anxiety, and emotional states could manifest physically, and that a calm, prepared mind was crucial for recovery. Today, disciplines like psychoneuroimmunology explore the precise pathways through which our thoughts and emotions impact our immune system and physical health. When you enter a modern hospital, the comforting environment, the kind words from nurses, and even the placebo effect of a sugar pill all tap into a similar principle, that belief and a sense of calm can be powerful allies in healing. Remember the careful ritual preparations, the fasting, the quiet? These were all about preparing the mind, which we now understand plays a significant role in physiological responses, including those related to sleep and healing. It turns out that inner peace they sought wasn't just for spiritual enlightenment. It was practically a prescription. One mainstream historical fact is the continued fascination with dream interpretation in modern psychology. While Freud and Jung certainly didn't have sacred snakes slithering around their consulting rooms, their pioneering work in psychoanalysis placed immense importance on the symbolic content of dreams as a window into the unconscious mind. You might lie on a therapist's couch today, recounting a dream of being chased by a colossal, talking broccoli, and your therapist, much like an ancient oneirokrites, would help you explore its potential meaning in the context of your waking life. They're not looking for divine intervention, but for unresolved conflicts, hidden desires, or anxieties that your conscious mind might be suppressing. The method has evolved, but the fundamental belief that dreams carry meaning has endured through millennia. A quirky or fringe tidbit connecting ancient and modern practices might be the rise of lucid dreaming research and its therapeutic applications. While the ancients sought divine visions, some modern practitioners explore how consciously controlling dreams can help individuals overcome phobias, practice new skills, or even process trauma in a safe, nocturnal environment. It's not quite summoning Asclepius, but it's certainly about intentionally navigating your dreamscape, a concept that the ancient Greeks, with their deliberate dream incubation, would likely find surprisingly familiar. Historians still argue whether the ancients truly achieved what we now call lucid dreaming, or if their experiences were more akin to vivid, culturally influenced visions. The exact nature of their internal experience remains a fascinating subject of scholarly debate, leaving open the question of just how awake they were within their own slumber. Finally, the simple act of creating a sleep-conducive environment, which was central to the Abaton experience, remains a cornerstone of modern sleep hygiene. Dimming the lights, reducing noise, establishing a consistent bedtime routine. These are all practices that echo the meticulous preparations of ancient times. We strive for a calm, dark, and quiet space, not necessarily to invite a god, but to optimize our brain for restorative sleep. The desire to understand sleep and to leverage its mysterious power for health and well-being is a thread that connects you. Drifting off in your comfortable bed tonight to an ancient Greek seeking a cure under the watchful eye of a temple priest. Perhaps as you drift off, you'll feel a tiny, calming echo of those ancient sleepers, knowing that even in your sleep, you're part of a grand, ongoing human story. And now, as the soft hum of the night settles around you, allow yourself to sink deeper into your bed. Let the weight of the day lift from your shoulders, like a gentle mist evaporating in the morning sun. The whispers of ancient temples, the rustling of sacred snakes, and the quiet thoughts of philosophers about the nature of dreams are now fading, becoming soft echoes in the distance. Your journey through ancient slumber is complete. There's nothing left to do now but surrender to the quiet peace that surrounds you. Feel your breath slow, feel your body relax, and let your mind drift effortlessly into the realm of your own peaceful dreams. There's no need to decipher them, no need to seek ancient cures. Just the simple, profound act of rest.